Happy Saturday, everyone. Thank you for coming to our October edition of Book Brewers 2023. And we have a quite good number today compared to last month, right? So always good news. And welcome Ukla for the second time and Utus for the first time. So today we have a lot of interesting books to share. The first one is Fajar, who will share about the happiness trap. So happiness trap, let me Goodreads it first. Happiness trap. Happiness trap. So anyone who want to happiness trap. Anyone wants to know more about the book before Fajar reads it and know how it looks? This is how it looks. Right? The Happiness Trap, How to Stop Struggling and Start Living, A Guide to ACT by Russ Harris and Steve C. Hayes. Please welcome Fajar.
Hello. Hello guys. So today I would like to share with you uh, my understanding about the book, and this is a rather different from the typical self-help book because this book is based on science, based on research, while the other self-help book sometimes it's just based on their own personal opinion or just based on copying other typical self-help book. All right. So when I ask you a question, what can you describe someone who is happy? Can you give example? For example, someone who is rich, someone maybe like have a lot of money, have maybe good family and so on, and so maybe, and on the other hand they also don't have that much problem in their life probably, right? I mean, it is a very normal for us as a human being to try to seek happiness, right? We try to get a job, to study, so that hopefully we can get a better job, so on and so on. So it's like a movie. Maybe you have seen a movie, A Pursuit of Happiness, right? Well, this is a very similar book about that. I would not describe everything about the book. I just want to pinpoint the most important idea. Okay, the first trap about the happiness trap is that uh, if you are not happy, you are defective. If you are not happy, you are defective. Because sometimes, let's say, uh, when we live, we are not always be happy, right? I mean, if we are so obsessed with happiness, then maybe it is the heroin addicts that are the happiest person in the world. It's like those addicts that are in the where's that rumah sakit jiwa that are actually the happiest. But actually, happiness is not the only way to go. And the second myth is that to create a better life, there is a myth that we must get rid of negative feelings. For example, when you want to uh, have a degree, let's say, well, I want to create a better life, but studying and doing thesis and everything is actually a negative feeling, right? But if we are too obsessed with trying to get rid of that, then that become a problem. Okay, so I will just make it as concrete as possible. Yeah. Sometimes when we are too obsessed with the key point is that if we are too upset with controlling our feeling and our emotions, it become a problem. Let me give you example. For example, there is a couple, Andrew and Silvana. They don't really have good relationship at the time because Silvana often complain to the Andrew because Andrew work long hours. But the problem is that because Andrew doesn't like the feeling of the tension in the house, so he avoid even more. So he avoids Silvana even more. So he work longer hour, right? So avoiding the feeling of the tension or debate create more problem. Another example, for example, Daniel. Daniel is overweight and he hates it. Uh, but sometimes when he try and try again to try some diet, he fail and he, in order to make him happy, to cheer herself up again, she eat a lot of chocolate. Or for example, apa itu? Joseph is a very shy person, but he is a very lonely. He doesn't have any friend. But because he's very shy, he want to avoid being anxious with other people. So he just stay in his room all day long or for so many long. So as the result, it become worse, right? So I mean, basically, when we are controlling our emotion too much, improperly, it can create even more problem. So that's the issue. Um, and at least in my case, after I learned this book, I realized that I used to be procrastinating a lot. But after I learned that maybe procrastinating is like an attempt to escape that feeling, right? But if I procrastinate, then it will create even more problem, right? So what is the solution for this? The solution for this is there is a method that is called accepting our thought and our feeling using mindfulness. So what does it mean? It means that we practice not believing our thoughts and our feeling as something very real. For example, there is, let's say, John. John has, let's say, sorry, yeah, suicidal thought. So how, but no matter how much he tried to escape from that thought, he cannot get rid of that. So how does John actually eventually, uh, you know, uh, overcome that? It is by accepting those thoughts, that by accepting that it is not really within in my control, and ironically, by letting go the control, the thought itself lose its power, and he can live his life as high as he wants. Like. Actually, there are even more, but I just want to point out the main point. Lah. So, what is the question again? Repeat.
First one is, why did you decide to read about this book?
Oh yeah, I
Read the
think
book.
it is different from the typical self-help book, where the typical self-help book feel like use affirmation. I am great. I am positive, etc., etc. But actually, sometimes it's bullshit and it doesn't always work.
I
Uh,
mean, are you not happy right now? That's why
I
you
used to have.
decide to read the book. What
I used
happened to
to,
you? Why did you
uh,
suddenly decide to
ada
read this
lah nanti lah.
happiness trap?
Ada. Oh, and what was the other question?
What are the golden nuggets you get from the book?
Basically, when we are obsessed to be happy, actually, by chasing happiness itself, is if we are obsessed chasing happiness, it become a negative experience. But if we accept those negative experience, it become a positive experience. I think it is very similar idea with the concept from, who is that? I don't give a fuck, something like that. There's a book, right? I don't give a fuck, something. So basically, he mentioned about the same thing. But if we try
The art of not give.
the art of not giving a fuck. So basically, if we chase happiness, it's actually, if we chase happiness too much, it becomes a negative thing. What else? Oh yes, maybe some criticism. Maybe this book is not just, it's not a cup of tea for everyone, I guess. But I think it's all right. If
Why
I,
it's not a cup of tea for everyone?
yeah,
Why?
maybe, and I think that the concept is kind of counterintuitive, and maybe people will tend to just dismiss that. But if you think about it, if you relate to Buddhism and mindfulness, it's actually very much makes sense. And I think if I give the sum score, it's 4.5, which is actually high for me. Usually I only give like 4. Okay, I think that's all.
Right. Thank you, Fajar. Now, any questions for Fajar related to this book? The Happiness Trap.
Yeah, maybe just a short comment. I think it depends on the definition of happiness. So from Fajar's explanation, it sounds like the definition of happiness, according to the author, is more like pleasure, closer to pleasure. So it's avoiding pain. But I think, in my opinion, a better definition of happiness is not pleasure or avoiding pain, but it's fulfillment. Or another way to put it is the satisfaction that comes from overcoming challenges. So instead of avoiding pain, we are welcoming pain, because when we overcome it, the satisfaction is fulfilling. So I think, in my mind, the definition of happiness is like that. So maybe it depends on the definition of happiness. Just a short comment.
Actually, the author himself already mentioned that there are 2 types. Yeah, exactly. There are 2 definitions of happiness. One is just chasing happiness, chasing pleasure, chasing joy. But his own proper definition of happiness is to live our life based on our values, based on what we want, what would we truly want in our life. But at the same time, we also accept any challenges and any problems that we face. Not just only seeking happiness, but also accept that. Okay.
I read briefly the introduction of the book, Fajar. It says it's ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. So probably acceptance, I can imagine from your explanation. But what is commitment therapy here? What is commitment here? Commitment to do what?
Okay, so commitment means here is, let's say that commitment basically is a willingness to do it, to do something, even if you don't like it. So for example, someone who are overweight, no matter how hard he try to get rid of his laziness, let's say, it will be very difficult to overcome his laziness, let's say. But if he willing, if he commit and he do it without, even if he doesn't like it, then his overweight problem will start to be resolved instead of just being stuck at that point. Do you get it?
So being committed is the source of happiness in this case.
Being committed means, yeah, it
will be the source of the happiness itself, or what?
Yeah, in the long run, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for now, I can only imagine. You mean it's the commitment to solve the challenges, probably just one related to Donald, right? If someone's overweight, the challenge is of course solving the issue. So being committed to solve it, I guess probably become the source of the happiness itself.
Yeah. I mean, being committed, let's say, to not cheat with your wife, let's say. Yeah. Or being committed to, get off from drugs, let's say. I mean, those things are not always be easy, right? There are so many temptations. There are so many promise of joy or pleasure from those instant gratifications. But if we stick with our values, eventually in the long run, we will have a better life by committing to those values. Do you get it?
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions for Fajar?
Yeah.
So,
okay, so the way I can conclude it at the end, the happiness itself is related with the objective quality of our life. Like for example, I kind of feel some paradox. Mean like it says about acceptance. So acceptance mean you need to accept you are as whatever you are. But then there is says about commitment, which commitment to what? To changing yourself to be better. So, and to be better means it's like something that is objectively, the quality is objective. So it means like if you are overweight, then you need to be committed instead of accepting yourself as you are. Yeah. What do you think about it? Yeah, I kind of feel
Sorry,
like,
can you repeat the last sentence?
yeah,
Can you repeat your last sentence?
it's kind of paradox because it says about accepting to reach for happiness, means that accepting you as what you are, but then it's also talk about commitment to change, commitment which in turn is to change yourself, right, instead of accepting. So it's kind of paradox actually.
So accepting accepting that you are already here, you are today. What does it mean? I mean, let's say that accepting. Okay, maybe let's just say that if you don't accept, let's say if you don't accept that, let's say someone is overweight, but he just doesn't accept that he's actually overweight, that he needs some changes, right? But if he accept that, well, I'm overweight, I have to accept that I need to change, then he can start to make a better decision in his life. Maybe that's an example. Okay, got it.
Yes. Although I have a different opinion, maybe just the adage as old as time.
Oh, yeah.
We need to accept what we cannot change, but we
Yes,
are
exactly.
committed to change what we can change. Probably.
Yeah, those words are also in the book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Any more questions? Maybe from Ukla or Utus? No more? Okay. Thank you, Fajar.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
You're staying with us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to the next presenter, which is Donald. How the world really works. Donald.
Okay, thank you, Bibi. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity. The title of the book that I would like to share is How the World Really Works by Václav Smil. The first question, what is the book about? So the book is about, the title is about how the world really works. It's actually a summary of about 40 books that the author has written previously. So the author is actually a favorite author of Bill Gates. Bill Gates has a foundation, and Bill Gates often reviews books by Václav Smil. And the books are usually about energy and mostly about energy, oil, and also about the environment and so on. And this book is actually a summary of his previous books. So it's like a big picture and an overview of everything. So why did you decide to read the book? The second question, because by reading this one book, I can get the gist or the core of all his writings. And as I mentioned before, he is a favorite author of Bill Gates. The foundation that Bill Gates run, many of the decisions are made based on insights like the ones from Václav Smil. So I want to read this book so that I get to know the key things in our world today, the things that affect it, what are the important mover or the important factors to consider in just one single book. Later, I can decide to read something that is digging deeper to a certain topic, but this is like the big picture overview of everything. So that's why I read this book. And next, what are the golden nuggets that you get from the book? So the main message from the book, if I were to summarize it in one sentence, is that our current modern lifestyle depends a lot on fossil fuel, whether we realize it or not. There are so many aspects of our modern comfort and lifestyle that depends on fossil fuel. So it is actually wishful thinking to say that we can switch to a renewable energy in just a few decades. That is not possible because we are already so dependent on fossil fuel on so many things, not just for our direct energy use, like for transportation, but for so many other things that I never realized before. So for example, for agriculture, for buildings, for making materials, so many things that are not directly related maybe in our minds to fossil fuel because it is not as fuel, but actually they depend on fossil fuel indirectly. So our modern lifestyle now, we can say we can very comfortably go with a car, for example. That depends on fossil fuel on to a very big extent. And also something else that is taken for granted today is our air travel. We already have some electric cars today, but for air travel, it's still not possible to use electric airplane. That is still far away, not possible at all, because the energy density of our base electric battery, the lithium ion, is much lower than from kerosene, the fuel from oil. So it's not possible. And there are many other examples. Another one that I just knew is how important fossil fuel is for agriculture, for food production. So nowadays, we have about 8 billion people, if I'm not mistaken, in the world. And that is triple the number in 1950. So the world population tripled from 1950 to now about 2020. And how is that possible? How can we support so many people? The short answer is because of fossil fuel. Fossil fuel makes the agriculture, like the fertilizer and also the machinery. So maybe we do not realize it, but actually the fact that the world can feed so many people actually depends on fossil fuel. So the core message of the book is how dependent our current world is to the fossil fuel, whether we realize it or not, directly or indirectly. So that is the core message. So it is, again, it is wishful thinking to say that we can go to renewable energy in just a few decades. That's just not possible. Unless we are willing to go back to the lifestyle of the 19th century. So no car, no airplane, that kind of thing. Anything you don't like about the book? Well, no, it's always a difficult question for me. I always forget what I like. So what I don't like, I don't know, I don't like anything. Next, how would you rate the book out of 5? I will give it 5 stars because it is very insightful and concise. As I mentioned before, it summarized about 40 books. So concise and give us the most important insights. So I will give it 5 out of 5. Right, so those are the questions for reviewing the book. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Now, any questions for Donald before I give my question? Clara?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay. You say that the 19th century doesn't have airplanes. And I think I want to specify that maybe this book was created with the third world country in mind, because some in the world still doesn't use a lot of fossil fuel. Maybe some in the world does not have access to electricity yet. Yes, we personally who live in Indonesia are very dependent on fossil fuel, but somewhere like Africa or maybe in Sweden, where the main energy source is the wind and maybe nature, they don't use as much as fossil fuel. So I don't think it's not impossible. It's just difficult to adjust to a new life. Maybe it's the audience in mind. So what do you think? What do you think? Is it really impossible for us?
Well, actually, the world does depend on fossil fuel a lot. So one example that is given in the book is Germany. Germany deliberately want to shift away from fossil fuel for about 3 decades. So they already made serious effort to move away from fossil fuel for about 3 decades. But I don't remember the number, the exact number. I have to look up in the book. But the fact is, even Germany, so Germany is like the best example in the world of moving away from fossil fuel, but they still depend a lot. So they reduce the portion of fossil fuel only by like 5%. So the exact number I have to look up, but it's like previously, the 3 decades before, it's like 85%. Now they 80% depend on fossil fuel, something like that. So that is the best case. The fact is, renewable energy like wind, solar, they are not dependable because they depend on weather or depend on the environment. So it cannot be stored. So one part of the book says that if we want to be able to depend on renewable energy, then one requirement is that the ability to store electricity for a city. So not just for a car or for a device, but for a city for weeks to come. And that technology doesn't exist, believe it or not. So there is no technology to store electricity in a large scale, a city size scale, for weeks to come. It doesn't exist. Or alternatively, we need technology to transmit energy, for example, from a sunny place where you can get solar power to a cloudy place. So we need to be able to transfer a large amount of energy. And believe it or not, the technology also doesn't exist. So what we have today, the transmission technology that we have is still way below the need if we want to be able to transfer enough energy from the sunny place to the cloudy place. So that's just example. So the news that we see or we hear about renewable energy, it's actually, in my opinion, and also the author's opinion, is blown out of proportion. So we have the impression as if the renewable energy is thriving, as if the dependency is not that big, but actually that is false. Because the percentage, the actual number, is still very dependent on fossil fuel.
Hello, Donald.
Sorry, Utus first. She
Oh.
or he raised his hand first. Utus, go ahead.
Hello. So, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Utus.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Utus. I'm sorry I cannot open my cam because I'm still outside. Thanks for having me. So I want to ask to Mr. Donald regarding the battery also that you mentioned on your show. I remember my college deans once said that actually there's a possibility that we can make a battery that cannot run out. So it's like an everlasting battery. You know, and even right now we have different kind of batteries, right? From the same category, like the usual battery, the triple A battery. You have the regular battery. You have the longer lasting battery. Different brand, of course. And from judging from the notes description about the book, that we cannot have a battery that runs out. But I remember in my college time, one of my lecturers said that actually the technology to create a battery that cannot run out is there, but it conflicts with the interest of people. If we have an everlasting battery, then of course we won't, they were able to sell another battery. So based on your book and your knowledge, maybe your opinion, is the technology possible to create a battery that always on, like forever? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Utus, for the question. So I'm not sure about the definition of the battery that is always on. Does it mean that the battery doesn't need to be recharged, or it means that the battery still needs to be recharged, but it can last a long time, so it can be recharged for many years? So for the first possibility, of course, that is not possible because the battery will run out of energy and need to be recharged. Even the current battery is like that, our cell phone and so on. For the second one, if the battery is still need to be recharged but can be recharged for many years to come, the main problem is not the ability to be recharged, but the capacity. Or actually, the term used in the book is energy density. Energy density is the amount of energy that can be saved or stored compared to the volume that it takes. So that is energy density. So yes, the battery can be recharged again and again, but it takes a lot of space and a lot of weight to store the same amount of energy as compared to fossil fuel. So that is the problem, and that is why we cannot have, there is still no technology inside for electric airplane because it will be too heavy and will take too much space to put the battery, even if the battery can be recharged again and again. So the energy density is the problem because we cannot have battery with small amount of volume and weight that can have enough energy. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, but that's my understanding.
Yes, if the batteries become the source of energy, it's no longer called battery, yeah. That is the source of energy then, because the function of battery is actually storing energy taken from something else, yeah. Okay. Although they said there's a self-recharging batteries, usually using solar, right? But the capacity is very low and it's very what is it called? Costly in terms of it's not energy efficient. Yeah. Right. So Fajar, do you have questions for Donald? I also have
Okay.
questions later.
So basically the problem of energy will become a huge problem in the future, but is it possible that we will not find the technology to solve that by the time the energy source is already running out? I mean, for example, the oil is already almost running out, but we don't have any other options. Is it possible for that?
Thank you, Fajar. So according to the book, we still have enough fossil fuel for the foreseeable future. So the current reserve is enough for 2020 rate of consumption. The current reserve of oil is enough for 50 years. Coal enough for 120 years. The good news is exploration is going on, and now we have new technology like fracking, so we can get oil where it was not possible before. So the reserve will not stay 50 years, it will increase. So there is no danger of running out of fossil fuel in the near future. That's one part. The second part about the technology, actually for short-term solution that the author proposed is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy takes small amount of space and it doesn't depend on weather, unlike wind or solar. So the short-term solution for energy dependency on fossil fuel is actually nuclear energy, the fission, the technology we already have it. If we can have more of it, then it will reduce the dependency on fossil fuel because the nuclear energy is reliable. It doesn't depend on weather and it can keep producing. For long-term solution, it is not mentioned in the book actually, but I read elsewhere, is the fusion energy, not fission. Fusion is like the holy grail of energy. Because with fusion, if you can have safe fusion, so you combine atoms instead of dividing atoms, if you can have fusion, that is like the holy grail of energy because you can get the raw material, helium, from the ocean. So you can get unlimited energy for like many thousands years. And the scientists are working on it. Hopefully, they have a big research power plant in France, I think. In France, currently they are working on it. So hopefully before coal or oil running out, we already have fusion. If we have that, that's good news.
Isn't that in CERN? CERN?
No,
The one they
not
said
CERN.
the Higgs boson apa itu?
No, it's different. Wait, I will
Different?
find the fusion reactor
It's like
project.
nabrakin
ITER.
things.
The name is ITER.
Oh, okay.
ITER. ITER.
ITER. Okay.
Yes.
We'll search. Well, actually, in space exploration debate, it has been mentioned that asteroid mining is also the future. They said, you know, a lot of private companies are now trying to mine the asteroids and get a lot of natural resources from there. So they even can get very efficient uranium, platinum, palladium, and all of these things from the asteroids. Yeah. So that might be
But
the
for
future.
but for nuclear energy, right?
Yes. However, they have not solved the problem with what to do with the nuclear waste. Yeah, there's still no tangible solution for how to store nuclear waste, right? So that's probably the moonshot that is going to be the focus of the scientists. Oh,
Yeah, just a short note. Actually, the real holy grail of energy is not fusion. It is antimatter. Because antimatter is 100% efficient. You convert the entire material into energy, so 100% efficient. But that is not possible, not in the near future. Fusion,
Actually,
yeah.
sorry, yeah. Actually, for antimatter is more of a storage, holy grail of a storage, energy storage rather than holy grail of energy generation, because the 100% efficiency is for the storage, but we need energy to convert matter to antimatter. Then when it's in the antimatter, we can store it for a long term with 100% efficiency. But yeah, at the end, still the fusion is about generating power because we get more energy than we spend on it. But for the antimatter, we need to use energy, and 100 of that energy used in that antimatter, we can get back again. That's why it's fusion is for energy generation, and antimatter is for energy storage. For example, if we want to make interplanetary travel, we can use our fusion reactor to store energy in terms of antimatter. Then we can put it into a very small space. We put it into a spacecraft. Then it could travel even to as many planets. So we can have a way bigger craft and using that antimatter as storage of energy.
Thank you.
so antimatter is battery.
No.
Yes, it's kind of battery
Works
because
like battery.
yeah, because antimatter is a very unstable material. It's like when it react to matter, it dissolve, creating an energy. So we need to convert something into antimatter first. Then this antimatter we can store. Then whenever we want to generate energy, we can use that antimatter that we initially generated. But antimatter could not generate itself, and it's not readily available in the nature as well. Unlike the fusion material is like helium, hydrogen, it's all available in the nature. We can use it. Then with our technology, we can put energy and get more energy out of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Edo learned this in school.
It is the physicist.
Yes, physicist. Okay, so anything to add, Donald, before we move?
No. Thank you.
All right, good. So applause to Donald. Now let's go to our next presenter, Edo, with the blue sweater. And blue sweater is about how a lady found her blue sweater from childhood somewhere else in Africa, yeah, or something, yeah. So I will share the link in the chat box. All right, so take it away, Edo.
Okay. So this book is a memoir by Jacqueline Novogratz. So it's about herself. Who is Jacqueline Novogratz? Jacqueline Novogratz is currently the founder and CEO of Acumen. Acumen is an investment fund that is focused on it's a non-profit and focused on social investment, especially among those with low income. Social project that cater to the need for the low income community in the global. So this tell a story of young girl that initially worked as a banker in a Chase Manhattan. So it's a very prestigious bank and only cater the rich at first. And during his work in the Chase Manhattan, he got to travel some part of the world to Brazil, for example. Then he saw many things that is different from her hometown. Then after this experience, driven by the passion of a young girl with that want to travel the world and make a difference, he make a big decision to quit from this banking business and join a non-profit organization. And her first project is in Africa. In Africa, she saw for firsthand how so many well-intentioned projects at the end failed because it's not managed properly. It's like they are just trying to pumping money into this continent without really thinking about the need of the people there, and sometimes it results in the situation that is worse than the initial. There, she first tried to start a microfinancing institution in Rwanda. So there, she tried to lend money to the poor woman there, because at the time, woman, especially poor woman, is not catered by the financial institution anywhere in that continent, because even for a woman to open a bank account, she need to have accept to have she need to be sponsored by her husband or her father, because women still considered like the disabled or the minor at that time. So when she want to try to make this institution, she tried to approach to sector. First, to the AIDS organization, and the second is the business organization. From the business point of view, she got rejected because the thought at that time is uh, giving lending to poor people is nonsense. It's crazy, because poor people, it is believed that poor people would not pay. So so that's why the business sector do not want to invest on such kind of activity. And for the AIDS organization, they see this as a thing that is morally wrong. You cannot lend people with poor people with interest. It's kind of morally wrong, because the AIDS organization think that it's better to give grants rather than give lending to them. While in actual, what she discovered in that situation is when she talked to all these people, she found that in actual, poor people really pay when they borrow money. For example, what she discovered is there is a thing among the poor women of Africa that what we here in Indonesia would call arisan. So arisan basically is activity of borrowing money and paying for that borrowed money. And and if they could have this activity going on, so of course they could have they could also there could also be a financial institution that could cater the need for this poor woman to borrow money so they can develop their own business there. So there, she also see that there is a biggest flaw in the aid system in Africa. For example, the kind of the with food aids. With food aids, she discovered that food aids actually benefit the donor nations more than it benefit the recipient, because practically the it is a well intentioned, because the Western nation will think that giving money to Africa will end up the money will end up into the corrupt official, so they would prefer to give aids in food by buying the surplus food that is produced in the European or the North of American. In actual, this is only benefit their own economy, because what it does is it guarantee a buyer for the agricultural product of their nation that is already highly subsidized. So it boosts their own economy, while in actual in Africa itself, it make the agriculture-based economy to fail to develop, because to have a agricultural industry, of course they not only need land and farmer, but they also need like a supply network of seed and fertilizer trader, a distribution network, and of seller of soaps, and all of this will eventually fail to develop, and because it is virtually impossible for them to compete with this free or even very cheap food coming from abroad. That's why the nation itself failed to the economy of this recipient nation is failed to develop. And there are other many projects like the use clothing that is donate in a with a good intention from the Western. They donate a second-hand clothing to this nation, and it's also one of the why the title is the blue sweater, because she found that the sweater that she donated in Virginia to Goodwill ends up in a boy in Rwanda when she's in Rwanda. So she found all of this activity of donating this second-hand clothing to this nation result in the failure of development of textile sector. So there is no prominent prominent sewing shop operating in this nation. There is no business that can operate, because they simply cannot compete with this very cheap second-hand clothing coming from abroad. So at around that time also there is initiative from Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh about microfinance. So she take inspiration from this and try to do the same thing in Africa at the time. So she tried to, because to have to give a productive lending, she also need to develop the business. So at that time she start to think that she may learn more. She may need to learn more about business, so she can benefit more into these people. So then she back to United States and start to continue her study in Stanford for business. There she met one of her Professor John Gardner. John Gardner is actually an ex-secretary of Health and Welfare of United States in the Johnson period. So there she learned many things about welfare, she learned about welfare and charity, and she found out that many traditional charity failed because most of the people care more about being loved rather than actually making a difference. So it turns out that raising money for charity is way more easier than actually spending it. And also in America, she discovered when she worked with the Rockefeller Foundation that all of these newly rich people think that they know the solution and they just pumping money, but in actual, like they are more comfortable to have a thing with others in the beyond their border, while the low income people itself in the United States is mostly beyond their reach. So this is what she discovered in America. Then all of this journey led her to start this acumen, this venture, to cater exactly that need to serve the low income people with dignity rather than making a dependence out of charity, but try to make them self-sufficient with themselves. Okay, then next with the question, why did I decide to read the book? Actually, for this book, recently I have quite interest in development, about development. So try to read some books about development. And this book, I do not specifically look for this book when I buy this book. Rather that I stumbled it in a used bookstore, and when I check the review, it's turns out it's about development, and then I just bought it, and then it's time for me to read it. So there is actually no special thing rather than just stumbled upon this book randomly in a bookshop, and because I at around this time also have some interest about reading some topic in development, so I decide to read this book. The golden nugget from this book is okay, so the main topic about this book is that people actually do not want to be taken care of. They would like to live out of their own potential. So if you want to help people, you need to make it in a way that it creates dignity for them. That is actually the main conclusion of all of this book, of all the journey of the author. Thing that I don't like about the book in general, I like the topic, I like the story, I like the life of Jacqueline Novogratz, and I like how she taught, the way she taught. And the only thing that I don't like is maybe about the writing. Honestly, it's not so enjoyable. Maybe she's not the best person to write or to edit this book. So sometimes I feel like this book is quite distracting. She start talking about her venture, and then suddenly change to her own self stories. So it's sometimes kind of distracting. But in overall, the message is delivered by this book. How would I rate the book? I would rate 4 out of 5.
Thank you, Edu, for the comprehensive explanation about the book. It reminds me of the book I read a few months ago called Dead Aid, about same thing, how humanitarian aid actually doesn't really help these countries. Yeah, and there's another book called White Man's Burden, also have the similar tone with this book in my guess. Okay, so any questions to Edo?
Yes, I have a question.
Right.
The conclusion of the book is that we should help people in a way that they can be independent. That's what I get, and do not depend on foreign aids. My question is, what about the mental issue? I mean, some people do not want to strive and fight. Some portion of the population, right? Some portion, I believe they are willing to fight, but some of them maybe they prefer the quick way. Even maybe the government people themselves, if they are corrupt government, they are used to taking shortcuts and not used to fighting their way up. So how to build the mentality, or how to take the first step to do this kind of aid, the long-term aid that doesn't make them dependent?
About that kind of thing is it's believed by many previously that when people receive something, they would not they uh, they will be just become independent. But actual observation and even research show that human at the very nature, they want to live to full out their potential. Even if they are receiving aids or something that help their life, they still want to progress. They still want to do something that is productive. They still want to express themselves. Uh, in general, they still want to work. They do not become lazy just because they receive some aidance in something. So so in the situation of to when we see that there are we think that there is a mentality issue to the problem that they become lazy once they receive the aid, we need to reconsider about the aid itself. Does the aid itself really help them to actualize themselves, or this aid is like like a numbing pain, so like it's just to make them obedient, just to make them shut themselves. And we need to show them that to show the people that the donor of the aid is care about things that they give, because the author itself discovered in the first phase when he started to make this microfinancing, they borrow the lending institution in Rwanda. Some of the people that received that lending would not repay because because those people just think that if the donor itself do not care about the money that they spend, why should I care? Then then they just believe that this is coming from the rich, the people that is already rich. They would not really care if I not repay. But so long that the institution that give this aid is care about the development of these people, like how you spend the money, how can I help you to help your business where you used to spend this money and all, they will finally will continue to repay and to repay the borrowed money, and will continue to borrow and repay to grow their own business, their own enterprise. That's it.
I think Muhammad Yunus had a solution for it. That's why he got the Nobel Prize in economics. When the same problem when people did not pay when they took a loan, microfinance, is by putting them in small groups together. So it will be collective loan. And if possible, is their neighbors. So there's a neighbor pressure there. So they will do anything to save that face. Then, like it or not, they have to pay if they
Yes.
don't want to be hated by their neighbors. So that was a really, at least in Bangladesh, in India, and Pakistan, were successful system, implemented by Muhammad Yunus. Now I have a question, but Utus has question first. Let's go. Sorry, Ukla has question first. Let's go, Ukla.
Okay, thank you. Edo, I'm sorry. This is maybe not about economics, but about humanity. Do you think do you think that humanitarian aid is damaging for people? Let's say the recent events about Israel and Palestine. They do need aid. This is the people that have been victimized by war crimes, right? And say if we are going to help them, of course, we're going to send money and it's not going to be beneficial for us. We can't get anything in return, right? Do you think that all charities are bad according to this book? What do you think?
Okay, so according to this book, she's not saying that all charity is bad. She's trying to point out that many well-intentioned projects failed because of the way they took this the way they do all of this kind of charities. of course, humanity is humanity age is good when it tried to tackle the very basic needs. For example, humanity aids to eradicate endemic disease is a very good aid, because it doesn't the only result is that it eradicated this aid. It doesn't have implication on other sector. But for the other example, like the food aids, the implication of this food aid is that the local food industry failed to develop, which create everlasting dependence on the food aids. So, for example, if the example is like the humanitarian aids in a conflict nation, it is a good aid so long that it help all those people to have a foundation on themselves. But once it turns out to dictate the way they live, it start to turn bad.
So pushing them to stay alive, say like saving these people, taking them as what is it, pengungsi? Yeah, that. Is it bad? Because in other words, those people are going to take your money, right? Those
Yes.
people are going to get your money continuously because they don't have jobs, they don't have any means to produce anything, and some of them are even disabled.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about them?
There are a part of population that of course will rely to other people, like minor, like disabled people. Of course they will always rely to compassion of others. But the main take here is that for a charity to work, it's need not only compassion, but it also need to have an intellectual itself of how to manage it. So rather than to be in hurry of giving charity out of compassion, well, we need to think careful about the way we give charities. And all those wealthy people that do charity, they should in actual invest in great people in the social sector the way they invest to great people in financial sector, for example. So it's like the way to manage this charity that is more important than the way whether or not we give charities.
Right.
I understand Ukla's questions as well, because of course, donation is really important, right? There are people who don't have any choice. For example, those who live under the crushing fate of war, occupation, and disasters, all of these things, right? But maybe the book tried to remind us that good intention sometimes doesn't translate into also good things. So we intended to be good, but the result is the opposite. For example, in the Dead Aid book, it also says when we give food donation to a certain village, suddenly there's local inflation in that village. So those who did not get the food actually have to pay a lot more money, or something. Yeah. In that, suddenly the economic implication is out of our prediction. So we could not predict it. Or the government who received the food program donation send it to their military barracks instead of to the
Right.
people, or sell them in the market instead of giving them out for free. So all of these things actually, they made the corrupt government became stronger and even harder to replace, which is the government was the source of the problem, not the solution, something like that. So a lot of donation that goes to Africa, although well intended, actually can make the situation actually worse.
It's just that the system of charity always dependent on government instead of social communities, because it's so sad that if the government takes control of a charity, it always ends up bad. Well, it's not always, but it's always.
Yeah, there's always side
Always.
effect. But I have a question to Edu about this. So you said earlier that when we give aid, but we still need to make sure the person have dignity, right? So does it mean like after we give them aid, we don't have any right to tell them what to do with it? Is that the type of dignity that we want to give them, or how is it?
The type of dignity is the way that the aid is not dictating their way of life, but instead to elevate their life. For example, if you give an aid in terms of like a housing where you need to tell these people you need to live here is food for you, here is a shelter for you, you just need to live, you just need to live as long as you can. This is called this is some of the start version of the giving aid without dignity. But giving it with dignity is like, for example, what you are good at. Maybe you're good at business, you're good at trading, you would like to start a bakery. I will help you to develop this. I will give you the strategy. I will give you capital for you to develop your own business. Then you can also, once your business develop, you can also develop other business in your area. So even though this is the aid could be the same amount of aid giving to them, but in the end, how the people feels when they just receive, they feel that this aid is coming from this his life, their life is coming from someone outside, from external factor. But when they make life of their own, even though by the aid from outside, it's give them dignity because they earn it. They earn it instead of just get it handed out to them.
Yeah. Okay. So so we still tell them what to do, but also empower them then.
Yes.
I think that's the soft way to say it, right?
Yeah.
Not just giving it, this is the money and do whatever you want with it. We trust you.
Not that kind of them, because projects is a project. So even if a social project, there is need to be a management factor. Of course, there is need to be some scientific factor. Some of this is out of those people, out of the life of those people. There is a proven technique. Sometimes there is a proven technique. There is a proven scientific things that tell that this kind of enterprise will work if you work this way. So this is about using that kind of intellectual to help them, not just the capital.
Yeah,
But
that's
at the
at the end.
Yeah, but at the end, it gives the sense to the receiver that they earn all this hard work instead of they just get it handed over to them.
Free package from the sky.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a famous apa sih namanya, experiment. It was shown on Oprah Winfrey show when people gave an institution, yeah, I think one of universities gave $100,000 to a homeless man, basically. So they just chose a homeless man in the street of New York and give the person 100,000 and try to monitor what he's going to do with the money without any guidance, nothing at all. And then interestingly, in a few months, he ended up back in the street. So with nothing. And then the people who studied him were very frustrated because he kept making the wrong decisions, over and over again. Like he let people take advantage of him. He would gamble and then give gifts, which is not, like give gifts $20,000 to someone who like totally do not deserve it, something like that. So it's very frustrating when somehow we give donations but not able to help the person also make the good decisions about what to do with it. So I think that's something to add on here. All right, any other questions to Edo? No? Okay, so let's go to my book. Yes, my book is very middle school. So this fall tournament is about space exploration. It's actually about whether or not private sectors in space exploration is better than the public sector. Is which one is more preferable? And then I just happened to not have any books related to that topic in hand, and I just browsed my shelf and I found this book remotely related to space, which is a short biography of John Glenn, a space pioneer, the first astronaut who orbit around the Earth. Yeah, and that was before the moon landing. So in the race between US, in the space race between US and Russia, he was very much involved in that era. So that was the reason why I chose this book, is because it's related to space exploration, although not related to the topic of the debate. And then that's also the reason why I decided the book. And what is the book about? It's about his life. He had very interesting career, and I think we can get a lot of golden nuggets from his life experiences. For example, I wrote here on my note. Wait. Okay, so it's important to nurture our passion since childhood. So, for example, those who already have kids here probably can notice the passion of your kids and then develop them since childhood, because he had the privilege of knowing his passion early in life, and then he had the opportunity, and his parents also supported him to develop the passion. So his passion was actually speed. So if we know, is there any parents who supported their kids to ngebut-ngebutan di jalan? He was so lucky because his parents actually supported him to do drag race even in the street. So that time it gave him the ability to sign up to be the first achievement he did was actually becoming the first person to test the flight that broke the speed of sound. Okay, so the first pilot who drove the plane that broke the speed of sound, basically. And it was very unique achievement because he was actually a Marine. But because of his skills and his lobbying skills, his also personal skills, and also let me check. Oh, what is this? His lobbying skills, his persistence, and documented skills. Although he was from the Marine, but he was chosen to be the one flying the Air Force plane. So it's like beating a Marine, beating Air Force people in their game, basically. So it was a very incredible achievement, in my opinion. And also another thing that I find here is, it's funny because he was so good at flying the planes during war that when the war ended, he was actually very sad. When wars ended, usually people are happy, but that time when the war in China and Korea ended, he was very sad because he liked collecting the stars in the plane. Yeah, like a 100% target, all of these things. So it's funny when he said, I have to admit, when the wars ended, I was quite sad. And then also, he was also very persistent, even to qualify as the astronaut, because he was too tall, he was too old, and he did not even have a university degree that time. So he was 2 centimeters too tall for the cockpit. So every day he put a lot of heavy stuff on top of his head, trying to make himself shorter. And then miraculously, during the actual qualifying test, he managed to make himself shorter we don't know. I don't know. Probably there's a background story, but that's how he was also too old, almost 40 years old, but he trained every day to be able to show that his physique is not weaker than the people, other people who are younger than him. And he also, at the same time, he went to university. Almost 40 years old, he went to university to get qualified for the space mission. Yeah, so he was very persistent and invested a lot of hard work. And also, he got lucky because his family, wife and kids, supported him fully, that they said it's okay not to see us. So basically, he would leave his family years at a time, even though there were all of them in America, for example, but they on purpose lived in different states. So John Grant could focusing on, training and all of these things without being quote unquote bothered by family life. Yeah. And then another thing that amazes me is the preparation to do space mission is also incredible. So the book told a detailed account of how the training they do just in case they get stranded in the tropical island, or just in case they got stranded in the savannah, all of these things. So they train months at a time just to be able to solve a probable issue that what happened if. So he has to be able to operate all of the machines in the dark, for example, have all of the buttons in the spaceship in the dark, something like that. So a lot of different trainings that he had to go through, but I found it very amazing in a way how detailed the planning stages are for this space mission. Yeah. And then for personal lesson that I get out of it is about delayed success. So actually, when during this screening about which astronaut gets chosen to do this space mission, he wasn't the first choice. So he was actually the third choice. Although he considered himself the most senior, the best, and things like that, but he didn't get chosen the first time. He didn't get chosen the second time. So during this first and second astronaut that got chosen, he was always the backup astronaut. And without knowingly, the third chosen astronaut actually got the best mission. So he didn't even know that time. So the third astronaut that was chosen get to be the first person orbiting the Earth twice. So he was the first person of orbiting the Earth from space 2 times, right? So the first and second astronaut didn't even get to do that. So he got when he looked back, he got lucky that he was the third chosen astronaut. And during this time when he didn't get chosen, he was actually very depressed because somehow, failure, but he was not allowed to show it in public. So there's an account from his wife showing that he was very gloomy at home, but in front of the press, he looked very happy, not showing that he was resented the fact that he did not get chosen. Even when he got chosen, he almost got canceled because the weather was really bad. So he got canceled every time. It's not today, not today, not today. And the doctor said that because he kept on getting delayed, it took a toll on his mental health. So the doctor of the NASA actually recommended him to be replaced even before flying. So he prayed really hard not to get replaced. And then thankfully he could show that his mental health was okay, even though with the constant postponement. And then finally he managed to go into space and be the first man to orbit the Earth. And then I like one quote from him that he said, every one of us would feel guilty if we didn't make the fullest use of our talents. So that's what his father told him, that we have to make the fullest use of our talents. If not, then we would feel guilty. So that is the golden nuggets at the same time that I get from the book. Anything I don't like about the book. Anything I don't like about the book is because he's actually a very successful senator as well. But the book did not talk about his politics life. But maybe it's because it's for middle school students, so not really into politics. Maybe, I don't know. But I wish they also talk about him, because as senator, he managed to persuade NASA to give some control to the astronauts, basically. So it's funny because when you were the astronaut that time, you have no control about what's going on in the spaceship. Everything was back to the mission control. So you don't even know how to stop this thing or how to close the window or all of these things. So when he became a senator, he lobbied NASA to actually give some control to the astronaut. So I think the part that I don't like is the missing part about this politics side. How would I rate this book? I would rate this book 4 out of 5. Okay, so that is my presentation. Any question?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, thank you, Pipit, for the presentation. Maybe first a comment. I think John Glenn is the first American, but not the first person to orbit the Earth, because the first person is from Soviet Union, Yuri Gagarin, but he was the first American.
Make the
And
full
Wikipedia-
orbit around the Earth is the first one.
Wikipedia says Yuri Gagarin did one full orbit. John Glenn did
no.
twice.
Oh, so he did it twice. Okay. Maybe the first American to do it, yeah.
Yeah, and there is a movie about it that I watched some part in Disney titled The Right Stuff about that. And in the movie, it portrays the competition between John Glenn and Alan Shepard. Did the book mention anything about the competition with Alan Shepard? Because Alan Shepard is portrayed as the main competitor in the movie.
Yes, this book talk about 2 competitors. The first one is the one who competed with him to be the chosen pilot for the plane that broke the speed of the sound. And the second one is about the astronaut to get chosen to be the astronaut. So which one is it? The one is it the to compete as the astronaut? Oh
As the
yeah, okay.
astronaut.
Yeah, he lost twice. So he got chosen as the third one. So is it the first one or second one?
Could you elaborate about why he lost? Because it seems like a very interesting competition. Like, I mean, what
Yeah,
are the
so
factors that
unfortunately the book is very short, yeah. So the the book built up in a way that he was sure he was chosen. Like there's no way he was not chosen. Even the press, one of the press actually mistakenly announced that he was the leader of the mission because he was the one presenting himself as the leader of the group. So even there was even a mistake in the media. One of the journalists actually wrote that he was the leader of this mission, and of course he was the one going, but in the end he did not. And then he slid into depression. I think probably that was the first time when he lost from that astronaut guy. So, and he became the backup astronaut, and he proved himself to be a team player. So he said that astronaut success is my success. So then in the end, he was the one who, the last person who not congratulates, like saying, have a safe flight, something like that, and close the door of the space ship, right? Yeah. So I think in the end he became the bigger person, and then acknowledged that, okay, you're the one who got chosen, not me. It's okay. Your success is my success as well. I think probably that's the first astronaut thing. What's the name of the movie?
The Right Stuff.
The Right Stuff.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even know this. Okay. Oh, 1983, yeah. All right. I'll put it in my watch list. Thank you, Donald. But while waiting for the question, I think the personal. Oh yes, Ukla.
Okay, thank you. That book is for elementary
Middle
students,
school.
right? Middle school. Oh, middle school.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can assume that book just only talks about passion since it's a like theme for middle schoolers, right? A lot of people in middle schools are finally realize that not only passion gonna get you through your dreams, but it's also hard work,
Persistence. Yeah.
persistence. So gosh, I think I want to ask a question about, since the story talks about passion and his eventual depression, but still goes through with it. What about you, Miss Kitty? Do you have a passion against something? And then have you tackled such hardships and persisted through it? Maybe you can share about it. Since it's
Oh, why suddenly becomes my autobiography?
Well, I think it's interesting since it's a middle schooler book and we can relate with that, right?
Yeah. So my passion is debate, obviously, and since 2004. How long has it been? Yeah, 19 years. And I was the national champion twice in the same year. So I think probably that was my when I found out, oh, I really could do this. And it led me to a lot of different chances. Yeah, sent me to many different countries because usually taking my students to these competitions. And I'm happy to say that my students won a lot of competition. Actually, 2 weeks ago, they won in a World Scholars Cup global round against 650 teams. They got number one. Teams from all over the world. Yeah, 650 from all over the world. So I was shocked, and yeah, I teach them online for 8 months, and then finally, yeah, we got the results, and they came out as the champion. So yeah, that was probably the biggest achievement so far. Thank you for asking, though.
It's okay. Thank you for answering.
Yes, Utus raises hand.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm not going to ask nor comment, but I'm just going to share some information. Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, related to the book that you are reading, it reminds me of a movie called A Million Miles Away. It's a new movie released in 2023. It's about the first Latino astronaut played by Michael Pena, and it's very moving and in some way related very much to your book. It's well, basically because he's a Latina, he is a minority. Um, from the first uh, story that it tells from the school period and then the college period, working period, um, he has this dream to become an astronaut, and it's very basically very challenging, especially because he is a Latino, sorry, and he applied to NASA almost like 10 or 12 times, all rejected. And during that period, on the 11th, he personally delivered the letter to NASA and meet with the HR department personally. The conversation on that scene is very moving. He said that this is my 11th application, and if you guys reject me, and surely I will come again next year to present my application. And it's very touching. And one of the worker on that department clapped his hand, hearing the presentation. Very moving. Also, during on the fifth or the sixth time that he got rejected, and then his wife said to him, what is it that other people have that you don't, besides the degree and everything, the knowledge and everything? So he began to study the applicant, and then he began to taking flight classes. He began to take a marathon course. So by the time on the 11 application, he said that I have several thousand flight hour. He said that I joined the marathon, I joined the swimming and everything. So I think the persistence that you mentioned is very much shown on his character. And by the end of the movie, of course, he get picked up and then went to space. It's basically on a true story. You can Google it. Start by the movie Million Miles Away, played by Michael Pena, the first Latino astronaut that travels to outer space. I think it's very moving. Thank you.
Thank you. So we added two things on our watch list. Yeah, The Right Stuff and A Million Miles Away. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so I guess my part is finished. Now we still have around 17 minutes. So anyone who like to share, maybe Ukla or Utus, about a book you
Has a
recently
book,
read?
Stories Tastic. Stories that
Oh
stick.
yes. Stories that stick. Sorry, I can't find. Stories that stick. Ukla.
Okay, so let's just begin, I guess. Stories that stick. What the question is then? This book is about storytelling from a lot of perspectives, for business, mainly business perspective. So this book tells us what are the impacts of a good storytelling can do. I know this is still non-fiction book, so it's not all about stories, but it talks about stories. The writer of the story is Kendra Hall, and she gains inspiration from when his husband went to a mall with her, and then, you know, as husband and wife does, when the wife gets into a store, the husband's probably gets left behind to do whatever he wants. And suddenly he discovered a cologne booth. Oh, okay. Cologne booth. And oh shit, cologne booth. And he gets to meet this salesperson. Suddenly the salesperson tells about this cologne that JFK wears before he died. And then the husband is very interested and suddenly turns into a cologne buying maniac. He bought two that day, and then tomorrow he came back and meets a different sales representative from the same cologne booth. But the salesperson is unable to describe the particular perfume in the same way as the sales. So it's just basically a different person with different skill. He only tells, oh yeah, this cologne smells good. And it didn't quite does the same impact as yesterday. So he didn't bought anything. And I think that's what I love. That's what I get from this book. It just tells us that storytelling can get people to captivate their customers, to influence their audiences, and suddenly transform them into a paying customers instead of just window shopping. Uh, uh, and I decided to read this book because I'm a marketing, so I wanted to explore my skills to better get people into my company. If I have to make an analogy about storytelling and business, it's about building bridges. Since communicating is a two people or more exchange information, we need to build that bridge. Since we are the one that initiates that, we had to build the bridge as good as possible. And storytelling is one of the tools that we can make. For example, if I wanted to make a bridge with just a road and no paint and just a paving, nobody's going to be interested in walking about that. They probably not going to be interested in seeing me. But if I give that bridge for paint, if I give that bridge maybe some morale, if I give them some stories or lighting, people are going to be interested in crossing that bridge. Maybe even, you know, as Indonesians do, maybe even staying at that bridge. I don't know for what. And what I think about this storytelling is not, oh, the golden nugget, sorry. The golden nugget about the storytelling is stories can always be forged. And it's always there. Everywhere around us is a story. We ourselves came from a story. Our parents hopefully maternal love, and then creates us. And then how do we get into business? Is that we have our passion, we have dreams to pursue, and that can become a tool that we use to make people interested about us, right? Instead of saying that I wanted to work at this company because I needed money, let's say I wanted to work at this company because I am interested in, for example, technology. I have always been interested in technology because I go to college and then I went into a debate club. That's why I wanted to go to a consultant job. And it makes the people that hears us, oh, this person is interesting. Same like writing. Maybe if you're writing about something, then you need to address why you write that business in a good way, not because I need to write an essay because I gotta get a good grade. People are not going to be interested and maybe not even going to bother reading the rest of your story. But if you're telling people that I wanted to write this essay because I wanted to change people's perspective against certain topics, and I have a strong feeling that this topic is interesting because of A, B, C, and D, people are more interested. And it can emphasize that we know about this product. This product is interesting and not, you know, not just this product does this, because a lot of the time, if we buy an item, according to this book, according to Kendra, if we buy an item, for example, an Apple phone, we don't buy it because why we need what it does, but what it does for us. Apple is one of the samples of the book that they tell. They say that Apple is a phone that can call, but their branding, the way they package their phone in, for example, in white, their coloring, and how they explain that their brands are very, very luxurious is like it's very interesting, and that's why people kind of sell us it. It kind of sells like apples now, it's not like hot pancakes anymore. That is what I like, what are good golden nuggets. And what I don't like about this book is that partway in the middle, it tries to go into an academic. It tries to give theory about how to write a book. It's about like the stories have to have this part and that part have to have a body. But I don't think so. Since you're not writing a Shakespeare, stories are about stories. I think stories are good if the message are clear, right? As long as the message are clear and if you're happy about that, I think it's a good story. Uh, since you're not writing a novel, because if you are happy about your story, if you're happy about the things that you create, some people will probably going to enjoy it as much as you do. You don't really need to think about hard things. You don't really need to think about the details a lot, but you still need to have specifics. It's going to be enjoyable. I think its practicality needs to be, the book do not need to go theorizes theorize the structures of a story. It's already good if they give examples already. So I would rate this book 3.5, I guess. It's a good book. It really is, but it's just keep on repeating one theory in a book. Although it does gives a lot of examples. For example, from the book Sapiens, since this book is written in 2019, I think. So it takes time. Since Sapiens is a bestseller, right? Everyone talks about it. So that's why it is interesting, but it gets repetitive a lot. If anyone wants to read the book, I suggest you do, since storytelling is a good technique to make people interested in you. But it's not always the only way. Sometimes you just need to present yourself. You don't need to build a grandiose bridge if that people is already interested in you. So maybe you should try using storytelling if you want to influence people. And that's it. That's my book. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ukla. So yeah, the
Welcome.
book only have one central idea and keep giving you many different examples. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, use storytelling to your advantage. This is the examples
Yes.
how it works.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
So, any questions from the participant?
I have a question.
Okay.
So according to the title, there are two kinds of stories: stories that stick, and stories that don't stick. I mean, from the
Right.
so what makes the difference between stories that stick and stories that don't stick? That's my question.
Okay. So stories that stick are usually stories that are relatable to both the teller and to the listener. For example, if I'm talking about my experiences as a college student to, for example, to maybe my higher ups who is 10 years older than me, I think they're going to not going to connect a lot since we experience differences a lot, right? So if I tell my college experiences to a people with around my age, maybe 5 years, it is going to stick with them. Oh, this person is like this. But if I told it, for example, to my parents, they won't probably understand and they're probably going to forget it the next day, right? It's relatability. It's what makes people listen to you.
I find it that we can be relatable to even people who live totally different way of life from us. I
course.
think though, yeah, it
Of
doesn't.
course, it
yeah.
depends on the topic, right? If I say, if I'm a married couple and then talking to a non-married couple, maybe we can find some rounds talking about how to take care of ourselves and the people that we love. Since maybe the people that doesn't have not married yet already have someone they want to take care too, right? It depends on the topic, but it's still, it needs to be relatable. You need to find the same details and the same topics. You can't talk about politics to, for example, an aerospace engineer because they're probably not going to understand very well. They would listen, but they're not going to, communicate very, interact.
Okay, Donald, seems to have questions again.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, why I asked the question because the book reminds me of another book. Actually, the very first book in our club, the title is Made to Stick. Made to Stick is also about sticky stories. So I want to compare the ideas. For Made to Stick, the way to make a story sticky is you make it simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, and emotional. So there are 5. So that's why I want to compare it with this book. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay, so since we only have 5 minutes left, I have a personal opinion about the stories. I always think the same of this, but counterproductive, probably, in my opinion. I find that it's humans' weakness that we are drawn more to stories than to data. For example, this famous example of how a certain children's hospital get more donation when they present the advertisement, like your donation will help Maya, who is suffering from blah 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 blah, and then presenting her life story, and people feel touched and then donate more, instead of showing a statistics for every dollar you give to us, you save 12 children or something like that, which is, for me, it's supposed to be the opposite. So it's totally the opposite of the debating world, the one that I know. So stories do not make you win in debate, particularly if you only rely on emotion. Appeal to emotion is actually one of the logical fallacies in debate. So the judges are made to be aware of, be careful when the debaters exaggerate the situation and then try to make it look like A, although it's actually B. Try to fact check the data and things like that. So yeah, in the debating world, stories are most like the enemy. So
yeah, I
yeah.
agree. I agree very much.
Okay, so I think that is it. Yeah, everyone has a Utus, please please come to our next meeting.
Pipit,
And yes.
sorry, Pipit, just very short comment about your comment.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe because in debate you talk about the logic part, but in selling you talk about the emotion part. Emotion sells. I can give many examples. Emotion sells more than logic. For example, the first iPhone, logically very bad product, but emotionally touching, so it was a success. Just one example.
It is. I agree with that. So in the world outside debating, stories win. Even with the talk like that, Brian Stevenson, for every minute he speaks, he got $800,000 from his story, right? So instead of showing statistics how his foundation helped how many thousand people. Yeah, I believe that, of course. It's just like just showing you a comparison how different it is in different field, I guess, to treat stories. Like I guess in scientific journal, stories also do not really matter, right? That's why now there's even a book teaching scientists how to turn their research into stories. So people will, be interested to read about it. Okay, so I think Utus, please come again next month, the second Saturday of the month, and then we would like to welcome you to our group. And then Ukla will be in our group, yeah, after this. Right, so if you have any book near you, please show it. Then we take group photos.
Oh, okay. I will prepare that. Sorry.
Usually Fajar has his math book or something. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, got it. All right, thank you so much, everyone. See you
Okay,
next.
sorry. One question.
Yes.
Yeah, regarding the book, is it can I use fictional book